The morning hustle has begun in Jozi, and in Mayfair, west of Johannesburg, Madina Omar is getting ready to start her business day.
Business all time, I'm mobile. Sometimes 5:30, 6 o'clock. And night time I close 10 o'clock.
In Soweto, south of Johannesburg, Justice Nkuma is doing the same.
Isikhathi busy kuba sekuseni from ngesikhathi engivula ngaso past 6 kuze kushaya past 7 ntambama from 4 to 9 o'clock.
A recent study done by the University of Johannesburg shows that more than half of the spaza shops situated in Soweto are owned by non-South Africans. Ngosi explains that building relationships with this community has not been easy.
We had some structures whereby we said you need to be with us, you need to work with us, you need to be registered and be having a permit in South Africa that allows you to be permitted to be in South Africa. Then number 2, you need to register your spaza shops, because we as spaza shops of South Africa, we were told by the government that we need to comply, and we did that. We registered, we cleared your websites, everything was up to date. So you as well.
Yes, we are blessed. Our sea. Yes, we are blessed.
Cannot have our country where people come willy-nilly and take over, jobs, they take over, economy, they take over, our hospitals, everything, our buildings, people who are illegal in our country. So they need to be ordered. People can't just come willy-nilly, we need to have, proper border securities. So we're addressing those needs, and also township economy. Right now you can see our people has been displaced. All these places, buildings, they've been occupied by illegal immigrants, which is unfair. Our people are languishing, smoking nyaope, not doing business, unemployed. That can't be normal.
Evening, Mari Witu.
Good evening, Mangalani.
Just bear with us. We will probably start in a few minutes' time, around about 10 past or so.
I'm aligned. I'm not in a hurry.
Fantastic. Thanks. We knew when we have a guest like you that you will give us all the time that we need, which is something that we really appreciate.
Awesome.
Let's just do usual stuff, because there are a lot of people who normally want to speak right at the end, and it becomes an issue when we run out of time. So if there's anyone who wants to grab a mic and say a word or two quickly, we will give you that opportunity to do that right up front. We are okay with that. We don't have an issue. If there's anyone who wants to do, please just request a mic and say whatever you want to say while we are waiting for others. I see we already have Edgar, and we have Ntlantla who wants to say a word or two, and Rachel, and who else?
Hello?
I see.
Hi, can you
Hello.
hear me?
We can hear you loud and clear. Go ahead.
Yes, hi. I just was added to this group. I just came in, and I just wanted to say that I am thankful for you, and I follow you on Instagram, and I just wanted to say that. That's all I want to say.
Well, Rachel, I can tell you that it could not have been me because I'm not on Instagram
Or
or Facebook. I'm only on Twitter. But whoever invited you, we are happy to have you as one of our listeners.
yes,
And thanks.
thank you so much.
Edgar, grab the mic and say a word or two as well.
Good evening, our fellow South African. No, I'm happy because, like the last time when we went to Pretoria, now I can see there is something that is happening. Even the president, they did reply, and I think the next object we have to target, not per se target, the people that they are running the service like tech shop in a township, because what I can see, especially I think Stopian, what they are doing, according to me, they are taking our people for right. Because if I can check, even the health department, they are not helping the situation because what is happening? We cannot allow a situation where a person run a tech shop and at the same time they sleep in the shop, because already that person do that already they don't follow a health protocols. I think now what you have to do, as in my area I started, but people that are elected to support me. I think now this Somalian who run the tech shop there, I think we have to target them. We can't allow the situation at the same time they are selling our people, fake product. We just keep quiet because our government, they're not doing anything. That is my two words for now. Thank you through you, speaker.
Edgar, thanks. You are at the right place. You know what I like about Patriots, and that's one thing that I've learned, and I'm very grateful that we have time to engage. I'm glad that Patriots look at the problem, and they also think about the solution as to how we can fix this problem. And that's something that South Africa lacks at the moment. That we have a lot of people who are good at identifying problems and they never bother with solutions. We are where we are right now because of such people who just look at the problem and not look at the solution. And I also appreciate this, I have to say to all the Patriots, the members or non-members of Put South Africa First. I am happy that we are able to engage everybody and anybody on a factual basis. And we are able to reason, we are able to talk to those who don't share our views. And I'm very grateful of that, because why am I saying that? There was a video doing rounds of one pastor who says some of the people say it's outrageous, but I was I wouldn't say happy, but I was impressed that majority of Put South Africa First members, they were able to reason with that and not resort to blocking. We know people on the other side that the minute you throw reasoning, you are inviting blocking. And to me, I always said, of course, when you run out of ideas, when you stretch your mind to the limit, the only option that you have is blocking. And all the patriots that you're looking at right now, the movement is where it is because we persevered. I don't know how many. If you were to ask all our members how many people have blocked them, the celebrities, the artists you can think of, they've been blocking us left, right, and center. But we didn't worry much about it because we knew that reasoning wise we were on the right track. We knew what we were doing, and I'm very grateful. And I really hope that Patriot, we don't get ourselves into the blocking and name calling. We stay true to our message, and our message is that we are putting South Africa first. We have all the reasons, we have all the facts. We are not going to resort to blocking. We know the Pan Africanist Ntontoni will block you for just disagreeing with, even if it's a fact. To them, they're living in a parallel universe. Any fact that doesn't come past their brain, it's a warrant for blocking. Even the so-called leftists, the globalists, the same people who are happy to tell us that we are xenophobic and all those things, but none of them dare talk about England. Their lovely, their beloved England have decided to do Brexit for the same reasons. They will not say a word, but we see them on the streets every day. They call us names. We are okay. We will still reason with them. We will still show them that their logic are flawed. Some of them, they call themselves UN something. They go on Twitter and spew non-factual statements. And when we put in factual statements, guess what? The first thing that they do is block. They say, no, no, it's another xenophobe. Let me block this person. So one day South Africans will be able to see through that these guys are actually resorting to blocking because capacity or reasoning wise, there's nothing. It's empty. We have invited Madi Witu, African Renaissance, today, and we know his views. Why did we invite him? We invite him because we have listened to his reasoning, and we can see he doesn't only throw theories. He's not going to throw something that he read in the textbook and say, yeah, this is how things are. He is going to tell you exactly the situation as is on the ground. Then the next question a lot of people are asking, but why is South Africa not using people like him when they have policies on small businesses or any businesses in the rural area and townships? We know why. Because he's not singing the language of brown envelope. He's not singing the language of Amandla. So he's looking at facts. And we know those guys don't like facts. They want you to memorize that called Des Capital, Marxist book written in 1847, which is meaningless. Forever we are told that capitalism will fall. We've been waiting for over 200 years. It hasn't fallen. And you will have a person who was born in 1970 still preaching the same thing, that capitalism will fall. And guess what? They will fall and move on. Capitalism will not fall. Or you have this African Tony Pan-Africanist who will be telling you about Kwame Nkrumah and the vision that he had, but they forget to tell us that, by the way, it was Julius Nyerere and them who declined that borderless Africa in 1961 in Addis Ababa conference. It was clear that Africans were happy with boundaries. So don't come and preach to us that borderless and it will fix. Borderless won't fix crime. Borderless Africa, there's no way that borderless will fix corruption. If you look around our area now, borderless Africa will just make the situation worse. They are fighting now in Ethiopia. You will think it's one nation or it's one people. Why are they fighting? There's civil war as we speak today. And we are being told we need to unite with those people. There's civil war in Cameroon. There's civil war in Somalia. There's civil war in DRC. You name them. And yet somebody is screaming, let's unite as Africa. Then you turn around and ask that person the same, you ask them a simple statement. What have you done to make sure that Africans in those countries are not fighting? Nothing. But Patriots, let's not worry much. We know they've been paid and they are doing what their funders want them to do. That is to push globalization at all cost. Unfortunately, Africans found themselves mainly at the bottom food chain. So, and more so if you are South African, because you have a government that actively hates black South Africans. You also have a political party that will go into parliament and claim that we are fighting for land. But guess what they want to do? They want to take that same land and give it to the state. So it means every black person who owns land today, if that political party had their way, that land will now be forfeited to the states. And the same political party said it's one Africa, reserve 40% for non-South Africans. It means 40% of our land will need to be given to other Africans, and we will only be left with 60%. Where is logic in that? I really don't understand that political party, but maybe that's the reason why I never became part of their membership, because the reasoning in that space is just weird. without wasting your time, African Renaissance, all other speakers, please just bear with us today. We want African Renaissance to share his expertise and his experience, and we will give him all the time in the world that he needs. And right at the end, we can start asking questions if he allows us to. And I'm almost certain that he will allow us to do that. But for now, we are tackling the issue of township rural economy, more so in the spaza shops arena, where when we grew up, we all know there used to be general dealers, the dry cleans, the butchery, the small butchery, small tuck shops, and all of those shops were owned by black people. There was not a single township, not a single tuck shop that was owned by non-black South African. And a lot of kids went to school using, I mean, from from that same revenue, and to a point where we used to respect laws. Our government used to tell us that when you're running a spaza shop, make sure that it conforms with the bylaws. There will be inspectors that come in there and inspect your shop and make sure that it's in good condition. In other words, you are not allowed to sleep in there and have your chamber or whatever thing and relieve yourself in there. It was not allowed, and they will inspect that nobody sleeps in there. Today we have foreign people who have invaded our land. They're sleeping in there. They do everything inside that shop, and they even sell us toxic stuff. And of course, when we say or when we talk, when we raise voice, we are told we are xenophobes. So I am happy to be called a xenophobe. I'm happy, and I will tell you that I'm proud of that. Call me that as much as you want. I will accept that. So all other speakers, we see you, but this is the time that we need to give it to African Renaissance to share with us. I see he's going on and off. Looks like he's having some issues, so let's just bear with him. While we are waiting for him, I see you've been raising your hand, Tiboho. Just briefly, please, while we are waiting for African Renaissance, tell us what you want to tell us quickly, please. I'm giving you 1 minute because we need to give this time to African Renaissance.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mangalani. Look, now where we are staying in our township, there's a serious problem whereby I wonder.
No, Tiboho, sorry, man.
Okay.
Yeah, we know we all have issues in our area. We will deal with that later. But for now, let's give time to our guest, Madi Witi, African Renaissance. We will give you all the time right at the end after he has given his presentation. African Renaissance, time is yours. Take the mic. Speak as much as you want.
All right, good evening, everyone. I hope Mangalani I'm audible. And
you
thanks.
Are.
Okay, and thanks to Mangalani and Patriots for inviting me to give my inputs on this important subject. I think I'm of the view that all of you are alive to the fact that South Africa is currently navigating uncharted waters. What makes this even more scary is that we have no leadership whatsoever. I believe you have joined and are promoting this worthy cause because you realize that what will save South Africa is active citizenry. And maybe peradventure tonight we may trigger generational thinking instead of misplaced wokeness. So once again, Mangalani and the rest of the Patriots for inviting me. Now, I'm quite happy that you guys are passionate about patriotism. Edward AB says a patriot must always be ready to defend his country against his government, unquote. A patriot must always be ready to defend his country against his government, unquote. Now, let us deal with this matter that is just on the agenda, reclaiming small businesses within the context of putting South Africa first. And I guess small businesses in this case refers to the township market in the main. But maybe before I get into this subject, let me just give my background that as I weigh in on this matter. It should not be at some point in time somebody say, are you thumb sucking what you are talking about, or is it based on life based experiences? I have 4 years experience as an FMCG, fast moving consumer goods. I have 4 years experience in that sector as a rep. And within that sector, I was promoted for 3 years. I was responsible for that sector as a sales manager. Now we are on 7 years. And then I became a deputy manager for 3 years in the same sector. And for 2 years, I became a senior commercial manager that was responsible not only for that sector, but for a bigger market, but with a portion of this market being a contributor. I've done some consultancy work for multinational companies with focus on the township market. So what I'm going to speak tonight is not a theory. It's not something that I got from some professor from UCT or vets. It is something that I was able to live on daily basis. Now, my objective tonight is just to paint a picture of the dynamics that are at play within this market. And I think as we move, my intention is just to reflect as to why most South Africans are no longer players in this market, except being consumers. This market, it is estimated to be valued around 40 billion, and that is a modest estimation. There are some entities that put the value of this market to over 100 billion. I just want to break down how this market is structured. Is very critical later on when I speak about certain elements within this market, so that you are up to speed in terms of dynamics in this market. Now, this market, it's a township market. I think we'll use that description loosely, but when we become detailed, is that we call this market, it's a market, but within this market there are what we call channels. Channels, it speaks about you must have been to a wholesaler. A wholesaler is one of the channel. There's spazas, there's general dealers, there's local supermarkets, there's local super reds, and so forth. And so it's what makes up this market, especially in the main, in the townships. Now, when you look at this market, you look at wholesalers, foreign nationals moved in. You look at local super reds, they moved in. You look at local supermarkets, they moved in. And then there is only one sub-segment where foreign nationals did not move in, and it is in the liquor segment. Now, the reason I'm calling out that one, you are going to see how legislation can be used to protect the market. Foreign nationals normally do not play in the liquor segment in the townships because of the legislative requirements of having a license before you can open a liquor outlet. Now, maybe just so that you understand how we know the trends, we know the developments, we know all the movements within this market. Every sales rep that is based in this market, that is linked to a blue chip company that I was working for a number of years, would have, their responsibility would be to gather market intelligence on their handheld devices. In this case, I think in recent times, would install a software on their smartphone. So that software, they're able to, they've got a list of all the shops. A rep will have a list of all the shops. And if that rep punches on that smartphone, he can retrieve the name of the shop, who owns the shop, the address of the shop, and even the equipment that we as a company would have placed in that shop. So it's quite detailed, and it becomes even detailed that we would even know the store layout of every shop in the township. So why am I saying that? So a university professor in UCT would not know how the store layouts of shops in the township is like. So we had the mechanism to be able to gather market intelligence data that would tell us the layout of the store, the rate of sales, how much sales do they achieve weekly, who's the owner, what documents in relation to the store are in place, what equipment is in the store. So it is detailed. So no one can tell me that I need to wait for some paper to be published by UCT for me to be up to speed in terms of knowing the dynamics in this space. Now, let me give a background. I became, or I entered this market in 2003. This was 18 years ago in in various sales and marketing roles. In 2003, there was no shop owned by Somalian, Ethiopian, or Bangladesh national in this market. Let me repeat. In 2003, there was no shop that was owned by a Somalian, Ethiopian, or Bangladesh national. I was in this market daily, and I know what I'm talking about. As I indicated, I don't need a UCT net to educate me about the trends within this market. In 2006, I joined a giant multinational company as a rep, and my focus was I was doing Mamelodi and Pretoria East markets. Again, in 2006, there were no foreign-owned shops in this market. They were 100% owned by South Africans. It was around 2009, I think by this time I was in a sales management role, when we began to see the emergence of foreign-owned shops in the township. Now, look at something, I want to call it the 2010 phenomena. Immediately after 2010, I don't know whether there is a correlation between this and the World Cup that was held in South Africa, because around 2010, we saw 99% conversion of those shops from local ownership now to foreign ownership. How do we know? Because we had daily market intelligence that was gathered, and we're able to update our database almost on daily basis. So we had information at our fingertips. How do I know this? Is because the moment there was this conversion from local owned to foreign owned, it created an asset management crisis. The multinational giant that I was working for, or even to this day, they lease fridges to traders. They would give you a fridge, and you would keep their products in their fridge. They would maintain their fridge. Would know where the equipment is almost on daily basis. Now, how you got the equipment is that there would be a lease contract that needed to be signed by the shop owner, and that lease contract had to be accompanied by an ID copy. Around 2010, we began to have a crisis because our new owners only had passports and refugee papers. How do you open a business with passport and refugee papers? It's shocking. Remember, this is a fast-moving consumer goods company. It was not an immigration agency. It exists to make profit and not to be a home affairs. So we had to update our policy in order to adapt it to the changing business environment. And we allowed the submission of passports and refugee papers, but there was a proviso that they had to be accompanied by a copy of an ID of a landlord who's hosting this shop owner, who happens to be a foreign national. So the landlord will be a local and the shop owner will be a foreign national. So a shop owner would give us a copy of a passport or refugee papers. Then a shop owner, the landlord would give us a copy of the ID. So, but something changed around 2012 again. Those shops that were owned by foreigners, that needed to be, whenever they needed something from the company, they needed an ID of the landlord. By 2012, 100% of them, I'm speaking the market that I was responsible for, this market had 10,000 shops, and out of these 10,000 shops, 6,000 shops were local based. Now I hope, Mangalani, I'm still audible.
Yes, I can hear you, but just to be sure, I have also invited you as a co-host, just in case my network doesn't behave. So in that way, you can still be in control.
I'm aligned. I've accepted that. So
you can go ahead.
All right. Now, around 2012, then we were shocked that these foreign-owned shops no longer needed a copy of the landlord. Guess what? Because now they had their own copies. Now, these copies, they did not have them in 2009. They did not have them in 2010. But by 2012, they were producing ID copies whenever we needed to update our paperwork. And I mean, we were shell shocked that how did they manage to get ID copies within a space of 3 years? It's still to this day a mystery that has to be resolved. Now, in business, there's what we call macro environments. Macro environments is political, legal, socio-cultural, technological, and demographics and ecological. Political, legal, socio-cultural, technological, demographics, and ecological. There is a reason why I'm raising this. Why am I mentioning this? I want to show you a failure of the South African government in protecting the business environment from unethical and illegal activities in relation to this market that I'm speaking about. The question would be, did these new owners meet the legal requirements in opening spazas? I think this rhetoric question is based on my assumption that a self-respecting nation would have investment threshold before any business is opened by a foreign national, especially in a sector that does not require scarce skills. Let's move to another element within this market, cash management crisis that we experienced. This sector is highly liquid. It is estimated to be in the region of 40 billion a year, and other entities have put the number at 100 billion a year. 90% of transactions in this space are cash. So foreign nationals don't prefer a bank at all. Foreign nationals don't prefer a bank at all. Why? Could it be that they want SARS not to trace cash movement in this space? When we started as a company, when we started refusing cash because I think it posed quite a risk to our delivery trucks, foreign-owned stores would go to a bank, deposit hundreds of thousands of rands into suppliers' bank accounts. I mean, this was at the time where I got to be exposed to seeing $1 million in a cash form and being deposited from the hand into the bank account of a supplier. So they don't use their own bank accounts. The cash would move from their hand into the bank account of the supplier. Now, it's quite my question would be, how do you run a business of 1 million plus sales a month without a bank account? It's a mystery. It's strange. But only in South Africa this can be done, not by South Africans, but by foreign-owned shops. I saw funny movements in this space over a period of time. I mean, in some cases, you would have a meeting with a guy in the afternoon, and the following morning you give him a call. The guy is not around. The call gets picked up by somebody else, and he tells you that the owner is not around. He is in Pakistan, Bangladesh, or China, or Saudi Arabia. I'm like, come on, dude, I was there yesterday afternoon. I was with him. He says, he's not around. He's out. Initially, I thought they were lying, but later I realized that it's true. And I was quite amazed about these movements, strange movements, erratic movements. Now, the staff in these foreign-owned shops, 100% in most cases, foreigners. Let me move to statutory requirements for running a business. I imagine that you've got to have tax clearance, bank account, VAT registration to run a business in South Africa. But this does not apply to foreign nationals. A foreign national would sleep in a shop while running the same shop. And the question would be, why are health authorities turning a blind eye to this? Here is something that amazes me and that creates a discomfort. Many of them did not come with their wives and children. It's just an army of men in most cases. But for a South African to open a business, there's got to be statutory requirements. You can't sleep in the shop that you're running. You've got to have a house where you house your family, and that has got cost implications. So that means it is going to compromise your ability to compete with them. How do you compete with an army of men who have no kids, children, bond, don't pay tax, sleep in shops? Impossible. There's no degree or training that can prepare you for this. I've seen businesses being opened on what seemed like a shoestring budget, but in a matter of year or two, they became multi-million cash businesses. For example, I remember there was a time where a Chinese guy approached me to open a business. I think it was around about 2009, and his weekly sales were averaging 800. And the reason I knew is because he wanted an equipment, the sales equipment from us that needed to be listed to him. So we had to know the rate of sale. And we said, look, you are too small. We're just going to give you this small equipment because your sales don't justify that you need to have a bigger equipment. But guess what? The same Chinese guy, within 2 years, he moved to the business from being an average weekly of 800 sales to monthly 10 million. I can even to this day take you to that business. And I repeat, the question would be, from that time, the guy had movements. One moment is in South Africa, the next moment is in China, the other moment is in another country, is in the UK. And I was quite amazed by these movements. But again, I was not part of an immigration agency. I was part of a profit-driven organization with no mechanism to hold the Home Affairs accountable. But this raised many questions in my mind. Are they being sponsored by their governments? Are they foreign groups that are benefiting from these business activities? And to this day, these questions remain unanswered. Let me move to another narrative that, oh, the reason South Africans are no longer having spazas, general dealers, and local super rates and spazas is because malls have opened in the townships. Then we've got your national supermarkets like Spar, Checkers, and OK and ShopRite. So hence, we don't have activity in that space. If that narrative was true, we would not see an increase of number of foreign-owned spazas and general dealers and super rates and supermarkets being opened in the townships. Now, the value of this sector did not decrease as a result of the entrance of national chain supermarkets into the township. Let me give you why I say that is because a spaza and Spar or ShopRite are fulfilling two different purposes. Spazas offer convenience and they exist for a purpose different from that one of a chain supermarket. And I think the fact that we have seen an increase in number of spazas opening in townships confirms that chain supermarkets did not cannibalize the spaza sector. This segment appeals to what then we called, what can I get for 20 rand sentiment? Meaning every person that goes to a spaza, often they would have on average 20 rand note, and the spaza would fulfill the needs that are linked to that 20 rand note. And this was based on the research then, but I guess with the Ramaphosa economy, maybe we may need to revise this conclusion that the basket offering of spazas is 20 rand because the economy has since gone south. Let me come to another aspect where woke people on Twitter say, it's because South Africans have got no skills, they cannot compete with foreign nationals. Lack of skills of local owners in running this. Let me reflect on this aspect. But here I want to debunk the myth that local owners are incompetent. It is a fallacy, let alone an insult to hard-working South African men and women who have tried their best to work or make it in this sector. This multinational giant that I worked for, we had capability development programs where we would take local owners, shop owners, and take them to the retail academy, train them, and many of them were committed. And as a result, many of them upskilled themselves. So I cannot today say they lacked the business acumen. No. But they have since closed and they could not compete with foreign-owned nationals based on the factors that were beyond their control. And I guess another aspect that you may not know, in townships, this market is marked. There are borders. The Bangladesh cannot operate where the Somalis operate. The Somalis cannot operate where the Ethiopians operate. The Ethiopians cannot operate where the Pakistans operate. There are borders. And if you dare cross a border, it may result in a loss of life. And I know of some South African business owners who died under mysterious circumstances, and I'm not gonna indulge you in that space. And I think that we've got to leave that to the law enforcement agencies if they still exist in this country. Now, let's unpack another issue, the value chain in this market. How does the product move from the manufacturer until it reaches the consumer in the township? So you would have a manufacturer, it will be a company A, and a company A will produce a product that moves to a wholesaler in the township, and the wholesaler will have spazas coming to buy from that wholesaler. The wholesaler will deliver to those spazas. That is what we call route to market or the go-to-market strategy. There is a reason why I'm mentioning that. But here is a challenge. We have so many counterfeit products in this market. I've seen fake Valpre products. Valpri water. But what saddens me, I once did the work for one multinational, and this multinational is a manufacturer of sanitary towels. And we discovered that in the townships, you'll find sanitary towels that are meant for township women. And we look at these sanitary towels, you find that, for example, it is Always. But P&G, which is the manufacturer of Always, has got no idea of where this product comes from. It looks like Always, is packaged as Always, but it does not come from Always. And if you go and check, those sanitary towels, in most cases, they had potential of causing cancer. Now, here is my question. Where is the government in this space where you can have a chain of spazas in the township selling a counterfeit that may be harmful to township women, and they have got no other way, they've got to buy from these people, because most of the time, because of poverty, I mean, if it's a counterfeit, it will always come at half a price. Now, so there is an invisible criminal value chain. I want to call it that, invisible criminal value chain. Now, if a South African buys a genuine Always sanitary towel and a foreign-owned tuck shop buys the same product, has the same product, but it's a counterfeit, it's branded the same, and is being sold at half the price, do you want to tell me that a local person would be able to compete with that invisible criminal value chain? I beg to differ. There is no university in South Africa that can be able to equip you to compete with a value chain of counterfeits. But again, woke people won't understand this, and actually they don't care, as long as they push politically correct agenda on Twitter for likes and retweets. Let's come to another aspect of pricing in this market. This market is highly sensitive to pricing. I'm referring to spazas, general dealers, local superwares, local supermarkets. They get the stock from a wholesaler. There's somewhere I'm going. The wholesaler is very key, as I indicated to in relation to the go-to-market strategy. And when I was with this blue chip company, we wanted to make sure that wholesalers at all times display pricing. But foreign-owned wholesalers vehemently refused and said, we won't display pricing. I mean, I know of instances where we would go and put up a big signage with pricings, and the next day you get the prices have been removed. You know why? The same wholesaler will have discriminatory pricing between foreigners and locals, making it expensive for locals while making it or selling it cheaper or at cost for foreigners. So a Bangladesh wholesaler in a Bangladesh market territory would sell to Bangladesh spazas at a cheaper price, and if that shop spaza exists next to a locally owned spaza shop, they would go to an extent of even selling at cost just to make sure that they get the locally owned guy out of business. I mean, how do you compete with somebody who sleeps in a shop, somebody who's got people that are here, don't earn decent salaries, they're not registered, they've got no UIF, they all sleep in the shop, and still they're even getting a product at a cost from their brother who owns a wholesaler. Then you've got chips coming and telling us that South African they are not business savvy. It's nonsensical. But again, I think, as I indicated, the problem with South Africa is that we've got misplaced wokeness. And this is what is holding South Africa back. And it has numbed a sense of patriotism. And our people are being accused of being lazy without understanding the dynamics on the ground. Let me move to the ANC government failure. The ANC ministers still behave like they are in some camp in another fellow African country and are subconsciously still subservient to African presidents, as they were during the camps. Here is my question. Where is the Minister of Small Businesses, Abrahams? Has she ever weighed in on the issue of the impact of illegal immigration on small businesses? Her makeup speaks louder than her convictions. Where is the Minister of Justice, Ronald Lamula? He's divorced from the reality and he sees his role as a full-time debater against the EFF and Malema. So what I'm saying, we have no leadership in South Africa. We need active citizenry to close this gap. Let me move on the dynamics that I've just given you a picture to. What impact do they have on our socio-economic environment? Guys, we have 27 million South Africans here, inclusive of all forms of grants. 27 million South Africans are on social grants. 27 million out of 60 million. It's almost half of the population. This is more than the population of Swaziland, Zimbabwe, Botswana, Namibia, and Lesotho combined. Shocking. What does it mean? South Africans are becoming poorer and poorer. And the freedom that we envisaged pre-94 was not where we would have 27 million South Africans, almost 30%, or half of the population on social grants. We envisaged a South Africa where young people would chase their dreams, either hold a job or start a business and play an active role in the economy. But now, active citizens have been reduced to grant recipients. I would have understood this if this was a temporary intervention. But given the lack of creativity and leadership, it appears we would be a nation based on dependency permanently. We need an economy that makes a mother earn a decent living wage instead of 460 child grant. An economy where she's able to have a provident fund, medical aid, housing. An economy where she can own a business among her own people and compete fairly within the laws of the land. But those with binary thinking are of the view that when we advocate for this, we are against the poor. Foolish. We spend 195 billion and 516 million. Thank God I did not call it out like Zuma. Annually on social grants. 195 billion and 516 billion. 195 billion and 516 million annually on social grants, and only 4 billion on small businesses. There are people who genuinely need social grants. Granted, pensioners, disabled, fair enough. But the others need an opportunity and support to operate in a fair business environment and to make a living instead of receiving a grant. However, the government of the day gave foreigners the entire business sector, and have boxed citizens as grant recipients. 27 million of them out of 60 million, half of the population. Unbelievable. But let me leave this issue. It is a debate for another day. Now, you have foreign nationals who, mainly an army of men, have invaded the township economy with dodgy papers. Some of them, not all, are targeting vulnerable women who are caught up in the trap of poverty. I know women who got married to foreign nationals in the townships, but today they don't know where those foreign husbands are. They have since disappeared immediately after having the papers from Home Affairs, and poor women are left or are stuck with children of unknown fathers. I wonder if these women, if they practice African rituals, I wonder how are they going to locate the amadlus of these children, because the fathers have gone missing. Mothers don't know where these fathers are. But when we speak about these dynamics, woke people are too quick and say, we talk too much, we shouldn't be talking about these issues. We've got to talk about it because this is a mess on steroids. Home Affairs, for a lack of a better word, is a criminal syndicate. Aaron Mutwaledi is there trying his best to turn around things. But guess what? He may soon be removed. Why do I say that? Tito Mbeweni made a bold statement about restructuring these businesses in relation to the immigration laws, and from business perspective. Guess what? In no time, he went mute on that issue. There must have been some background maneuvering to make sure that Tito went quiet on the issue. And today, Mutwaledi, as much as he's active, I don't know for how long. Now, I've painted a picture of problems that are there, but what are my suggestions? What is the way forward? First point, we need lobby groups to put this inept government under pressure. And you guys, that's where you come in. Keep on putting pressure on this incompetent government. Because if the legal environment is not leveled, it doesn't matter how best my business strategy is, I'm not going to succeed. Look, now, the second thing that we need to do, we need to run programs that create consciousness among South Africans of the national security threat that we are under. We talk about this business sector being estimated to be in the region of between 40 billion and 100 billion, depending on whether you become modest. If you are modest, it's 40 billion. But if you want to be as realistic, because I believe 40 billion is underestimated, 100 billion, you've got movement of cash in this space. The question would be, profits that are being made in this sector, where are they being invested? Have you ever seen a foreign-owned national who owns a spaza in your community buying a house? Never. If they buy a car, it will be cash, and most of times it will be a bakkie. It will not be a lifestyle-based car. They live simple, they don't pay rent, they stay in the shop. So the question, profits that are being made here, who's benefiting from them? Are they funding a terrorist group somewhere? It's a question that I'm going to leave up to you to answer. We need to engage landlords of where these foreign-owned shops are hosted and make them to be patriotic and so that they use their properties to advance a good cause. The question would be, if you are a landlord that is hosting a foreign shop owner, and we read about this in the media, and a small girl comes to buy from this guy called my friend, and who's not a friend, and this guy molests this girl, actually, we should be saying to the landlord, you are an accomplice. We should be demanding from this landlord, where does this person come from? When you gave them your shop, how did you know that this person is traceable? So again, South Africans must be held accountable some of them have been enablers. But again, you cannot blame them because they were going out of business and they said the best is that I need to rent it out and make money. Because why? There is no government to protect that market in terms of the statutory requirements. And I think we need legislation protection in place that can restrict foreign ownership of tuck shops, general dealers, local supermarkets. Zimbabwe has done it, was never accused of being xenophobic. Kenya has done it, was not accused of being xenophobic. Ghana has done it, was not accused of being xenophobic. Botswana has done it, was not accused of being xenophobic. But whenever South Africa wants to do that, the tragedy is that you are not even being opposed by foreign nationals. You are being opposed by your own woke people who stay in gated communities in Midrand, Sandton, and Pretoria East or Northern Durban suburbs, who have got no idea of the dynamics on the ground. For them, it's about life, it's about social media, they tweet, they are divorced from the reality, and they begin to accuse you of being xenophobic. Let me put it this way. There is nothing xenophobic about demanding that the country should abide, or the government should abide by the laws that they have made. And the moment we get to a point where there are no laws to be adhered to, and anybody can enter this country, then, and we accept that, I'm sorry, we will be a nation that is full of bunch of idiots. The problem in South Africa is that we have allowed the political environment to dictate to many things, including where they should not dictate, which is the legal environment. Now, another thing, we need to become deaf, deliberately deaf, close our eyes to woke people on social media who masquerades as Pan-Africanists while benefiting from criminality or proximity to criminality. Tell me, women go missing, children go missing, we retweet. Are we going to carry on and say it's business as usual? I mean, at some point in time, we need to pause and reflect as a nation and ignore these people that are making noise. They made noise during the apartheid when comrades were trying to fix it matters, and they said, you know, we are fine, don't upset the status quo. But those guys became brave, the likes of Krizani, they became brave, and that's why we had a status quo change in South Africa. But we've got to be deaf. Let me give you an example here. Let me give you an example. If there is a drug dealer in the community and the community starts complaining about a drug dealer, and maybe the person that will be against that either will be the person that is making money from that drug dealer or will be the girlfriend of the drug dealer. So the question would be, should the community listen to the girlfriend of a drug dealer or a beneficiary of the crime of a drug dealer, or they must be resolute and say, we need to root out this problem out? So I say we need to root out this problem, and we need to be deaf to sanctimonious woke rat. Another thing, introduce business permits. If foreign nationals are not opening liquor outlets in the township because of the issue of business licenses, I mean, Nigerians could have gone and occupied that space, but they are moving, they don't get into that space because of the requirements of licensing and the constant police monitoring of that space. So why don't you apply that across the board and say, listen, if you want to open in this space, we need business permits to be in place, and they've got to be renewable annually. And any foolish South African who's unpatriotic and collect bribe or do fronting arrest them. There's got to be consequence management. And take that to the next level. Suppliers must request business permits before doing business in this sector. So that means a company that I worked for, before it gives anybody an equipment or even allocate a rep or deliver a product to that shop, first they must make sure that they've got current and updated business permit on their database. Then another thing, some of you need to find Stella Ndavini Abrahams, wake her up, remind her that she's the Minister of Small Businesses, remind her of her responsibility of advocating for policies that can protect this sector as far as it concerns locally owned businesses. So that's all for me, and thank you for listening to me. And I hope that you don't lose the momentum. And at some point in time, with this pressure being exerted on the government, one day you'll be able to change the landscape. Thanks, Mangalani. That's all from my side.
African Renaissance, thanks a lot. I honestly can listen to you for 5 hours nonstop, and I really enjoy your submission. That was a brilliant submission, and it's in line with, I think, while still on the podium, let me also remind others there are a lot of people who send me DMs to say, we have a story to share. Please feel free. We will give you a platform to share. This is for South Africans, not the so called woke South Africans who defy evidence and facts and they want to create their own parallel universe. This is for all South Africans who really want to solve South African problems. You have touched on Tito Mboweni, and I remember clearly in March 2020, him saying after this corona, we will have a new economy where there won't be 80% foreigners dominating hospitality industry, and none of that has happened. And if I had it my way, I will really make you a small business minister. Just by listening to you, that you really understand the industry. The so-called the spaza shop, the tax shop, and the rural economy, you grasp it, you understand the whole issue about the ownership, the assets, registry, and the type of income that is probably being made by the business just looking at the location. Then you will have our minister who is more worried about wearing nice and appearing on TV. And that's all she cares about. It really shows that in this country, we have a lot of black technocrats who can change this country, but they are not given an opportunity. So let me take this, and I know I'm still going to thank people like Kwena who made sure that this happened. But for now, because there are a lot of people who are saying they want this recorded. We know we have our friend who does recording and posts it on YouTube. If you don't mind, African Renaissance, this will also be recorded and posted on YouTube.
Granted, I'm aligned.
Thank you. And we will take these opportunities to, since we still have you, we are only going to allow people with questions or who wants to give compliment. We won't be moving away from the theme. The theme is set. The theme today is about reclaiming small businesses, lived experiences for people in the township who experience what they experience because of invasion of their economy by foreigners. So please bear with us. We won't be touching anything else. So if you have questions for Madi Witu, please raise your hand. We will accept you. You can pass a comment but we are not going to deviate. We want to make sure that we remain focused, we deal with issues. I see he has given us a lot of ideas as to what we can do. And I know we can tap from his knowledge when we approach the small business minister. We will tap on his brain really to make sure that when we do our presentation to the minister, we have all the bases covered, because we really want to make sure that we reclaim the small victories that we are having, be it small with the Minister of Home Affairs and going to the President. They do count incrementally. At the end, you will see this country will change. We are going to have a date with Minister of Small Business, and we want to make sure that this submission is included in our submission to the Minister of Small Business. Without wasting our time, let's give the platform to Gajeni. Elmo,
Good
take the
evening.
mic and shoot.
Good evening, Mangalani, African Renaissance. I thank you again for broadening our, minds regarding this crisis and this state of agency that the foreign invasion has caused in this country. I want to know from Mr. African Renaissance to say, what is the Black Business Forum of South Africa saying regarding this issue? Because we always see them when it's lockdowns, we always see them when it's issues regarding the economies of the country, because these are the people who are supposed to create the inner cycle. The inner cycle, meaning those very native South Africans who were displaced by illegal foreigners in this industry. They should have formed that forum that is there to have lawyers, to have a funding, because the most important thing is that we've had movements in the townships. There was this other movement here that was very, very radical in Katlehong, Togoza and Vosloorus in removing illegal foreigners. So when they move out, forums such as the Black Business Forum of South Africa, they were the ones who were supposed to provide those entrepreneurs that were in the very same townships that were taken over by these illegal foreigners, so that they purchase merchandise, they start up, they provide capital just for the basics, so that they can take over these very same foreigners, so that we don't have these other conscious people saying, yeah, you chase them out. Now, where are we going to buy bread? That is my real big concern, to say, what are our entrepreneurs in South Africa doing to create that inner cycle that is going to be self-funding and self-efficient in fighting this?
African Renaissance, you can answer is, it looks like there was an issue, because I don't know what has happened, but suddenly I see Elmo is not speaking anymore. Elmo, are you done with your question or your statement?
Yes, I'm done with my statement, leader. Just that I also heard something like there was a sound, so that's why I paused to end the question.
It looks like our national intelligence is here again, because I see suddenly African Renaissance is now has been relegated to a listener. Let me accept him again.
I think in the meantime we can take other questions.
Yes, thanks, Gwen. Oh, I see he's back. African Renaissance, you can go ahead.
Am I back?
Yes, we can hear you loud and clear. You can try address Elmo's statement.
I think there was quite an interruption, but maybe let me. I think he was asking about Black business forums. What interventions do they have in place in addressing this and making sure that Black people are able to be competitive in the township, or even maybe to raise awareness on statutory requirements? My answer to that is that, you know, Black Business Forum, I'm here, I can even include even Black Management Forum. There is an obsession with getting a stake in white-owned businesses as part of the transformation agenda. I've got no problem with that. But not all of us are going to have shares in white-owned companies. Some of us, we've got to start our own business afresh. And some of this business won't start in Senten. They may have to start in Katlehong, Alexander, Tembisa. So for me, I think their focus is not there. They deem the township market to be unsophisticated and not fancy because they've got lack of knowledge of the amount of cash exchanging hands in this space. And again, they may be under pressure from woke Twitter users who say South Africans are lazy, South Africans are not skilled, South Africans don't understand economies of scale, which I beg to differ. How do you want me to compete with a criminal? A person has got a product through criminal means. There was no capital required. It's just an arrangement between him and his brother. It's a counterfeit. How do you compete with a counterfeit unless you become a criminal as well? So for me, I think it's a lack of interest on their part. It's not sophisticated. It does not have proximity to politicians. That's why when you look at the Ministry of Small Businesses, I mean, the budget is only 4 billion a year. Then you look at other ministries, I mean, the budget is galore. So for me, I think they are just avoiding it because lack of knowledge is not fancy and they don't know what is happening in this space, the amount of cash that is in this space. Back to you, Mangalani.
Yes. Thanks. I believe Elmo's question is answered. Guys, before I proceed, let me just say there was a speaker that was added and I have subsequently removed that speaker. And I will explain why. I don't normally remove people. The speaker is Vashona Tafaz or something. He sent me a DM talking about we are fighting for small piece of land when the majority of land is in the hands of. I pick it up that please Tafazwa, go make your arguments in Zimbabwe. I think Zimbabwe needs more people like you. Here we are dealing with South African issues and we are only looking at South African problems. So if you're going to fight for land, go ahead and go fight your land in Zimbabwe and give half of the country to Grace Mugabe and can run his milk farm or whatever. We are dealing with South African issues here. We have graduates who are unemployed. We have unemployment sitting at 74%. Don't come and tell me about land because not 74% of youth will not get land. We are dealing with problems that can be resolved today.
I asked to chip in on that of Tafazo.
Go ahead, please.
Now, if Tafazo is listening, Zimbabwe is not foreign to me. I've been to Zimbabwe many times. I've been even in the remote areas of Zimbabwe. I've been to Swaziland. I've been to Botswana. I've been to Lesotho. I've been around. Now, you cannot enter Zimbabwe without paperwork. You need to have your passport in place. You cannot open business in Zimbabwe without meeting statutory requirements. And another thing, there is this illusion that we need to. We've got domestic issues. We've got white people in South Africa. We've got issues, I mean, internally that we can deal with as a South African family. But I don't need to be reminded by Tafatso that there is a white man in South Africa. I need to deal with a white man. I'm not going to deal with a white man the way Tafatso would want me to deal with a white man. I would deal with a white man in my own way after having learned certain lessons, because for me, even the land that he's talking about, I mean, the governor of Zimbabwe, I think the previous governor, I've been to his farm. Ask him. The farm used to be owned by a white man. It is a chicken farm. As it is, we are talking now, after it was taken by that former reserve governor of Zimbabwe, the farm is closed as we speak. So why can't you speak to that former governor and say, look, this farm used to employ a lot of people. You have chased the white man. Now it is a white elephant. What are we going to do about it? We know there are issues, but we don't get involved in their issues. Folks, we are not xenophobic. Some of us were lectured to by foreign lecturers. We are still in touch with them. And it's quite amazing. People that are law-abiding, they've got no issues with you guys advocating for patriotism. Anytime when a person has got an issue, a lot of times their paperwork is not in place. So we are not going to be shaken by people like Tafadzo. When I go to Zimbabwe, you even feel in sleep. Where are you going? For how long will you be there? And your host must be accountable for you on arrival and on departure. Why does it become an issue when it happens in South Africa? So we've got no time, but I think in the interest of progress, Mangalani, we are focusing on small businesses. Back to you.
Thank you. The next speaker or the next person who will ask questions, I will take two. One, I will take Ghost Lady from Ghost Lady from Podcast and Chill with MacG. Noctula. After Noctula, we'll have Daddy. Noctula, go ahead. The mic is yours. Ghost Lady, Noctula. Noctula Msimanga, the mic is yours. Okay, it looks like she's having an issue. Let's have Daddy Cool. Go ahead, Daddy Cool. The mic is yours.
Good evening, compatriots. I would just like to make an inquiry. I think it's about 2 to 3 years now that I've been engaging our local municipality regarding the issue that Edgar has raised in terms of, these Pakistanis and these Ethiopians sleeping in the shops and everything. And then I've also engaged our health inspector at the municipality. She did nothing. And the other worst part of all is that our councillor, the one who passed away now before we had our local government elections, he had 2 houses where, at one house he was renting to the Ethiopians for a tuck shop, and the other house, he converted the other house into a tavern as well as a tuck shop. So now I want to know, if you don't get any satisfaction or enjoyment from this municipality, because they are the ones who are supposed to be enforcing these bylaws regarding the health regulations of these people who are sleeping in the shops and things like that, where does one go? What steps do you need to take now? Because obviously those people who are not interested in enforcing these bylaws are automatically benefiting from this, from these Ethiopians who are having these bazaar shops in the townships. And also regarding this issue of illegal papers, I've engaged Home Affairs because there were 2 guys there, also from Ethiopia, who did not have papers. But luckily, Home Affairs and SAPS, they came to our assistance and those guys, I believe they were deported because one of the guys who are working at Home Affairs is a friend of mine. We went to school together. But there's one of municipality, I have a serious issue here because every time I go there and I complain about the health regulations that people cannot have spaza shops or as they sleep in the shop, they do their business there and everything, and then they don't do anything about it. I've been to Home Affairs. Home Affairs says this is a health issue, municipality should intervene there, or the district department of health. So I wanted to know from you guys, if I don't get satisfaction from the municipality, what further steps can one take? Thank you.
Daddy Cool, those are some of the programs that we are actively engaging them early next year. Please make sure that we have your details, and we will pass our details as well to you. We make sure that we contact one another. All of these things that we are talking about, like meeting the Minister of Small Businesses, those are in our programs for early next year. So those are issues that we'll be dealing with for the rest of the year, next year. We want to make sure that come the end of 2023, this country is as good as any other country. We want to play our part, active citizens, in returning this country back to its glory days. The reason why these guys don't tell you they came in here because this is the best country. Even if they claim we are xenophobic, they don't run away and go back to their countries. They still shout on top of building to say we are xenophobic, but they still want to stay here. I find it difficult to really comprehend why I will come to your house and accuse you all sorts of things, but I don't leave and go to my house. But anyway, that's for another day. Let's stick with this. And I'm glad what you said, Daddy Cool, is in the theme. We want to get rid of them. And all of this, hence we said, let's get an expert to give submission, and then we'll have many more, combine them. We meet the Minister of Small Businesses. If it means we have to march, if the Minister of Small Business is not willing to give us timelines of when what can be done, we will happily meet our minister out there in the streets. Let's have King T. After King T is Dallas, in that order, please.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm just going to make a short 20 seconds statement of why I'm here. So I started my two businesses in 2019. I registered as a credit provider, and I also registered my baking company. So 2019 going into 2020 has been very difficult because of COVID-19. So my businesses were making money, but not enough. So I wanted to grow as well. So I approached the NYDA. They dismissed me. They didn't even try to hear my proposal or anything because I wanted funding at that time. So I would like to ask Mr. African or anyone who can actually be able to assist me, what can I do in order to attract investors in my companies? Because I even went in as far as willing to share my 30% or 40% of my shares in my company because I'm desperate and we are not getting enough support that we are supposed to be getting as small business owners. And it's so sad that as a young person, I'm very young because I'm only 24, and I was able to start something that has been able to benefit even the land that was promised to me by the municipality was actually given to Pakistan, and I was not even given that opportunity to own a land. So give up. So I would very much appreciate anyone who can assist with advice of what I can do. Thank you.
Let me not waste time, let me give that question directly to Madi Witu. But first, let's hear from Dallas before Madi Witu comes back again and address the two questions. But I, for one, think you didn't get any funding because South Africans don't get any funding from our government. Because remember, they want to give you 100 rand, or they want to give you 100,000, and 50,000 has to go back to them. But anyway, let's hear Dallas.
Dumelang, Patriots. Can you hear me? Okay. I only got a few concerns that I think all of you, not only to one, okay, you can answer them, you can respond to them, maybe you can come up with ideas. It's about spaza shops, taco townships. We grew up with these things. We used to get our breads from there, and some of us, our school fees were from those, because we are from those old dispensation of school fees, not these free schools. So my question is, how do we unite black business, spaza shops especially, so that they can pool their resources together? Because there's this claims that the reason these Bangladeshis and Somalis and Ethiopians, the reason they beat us to this game is because they can pool their resources together, fill up their spaza shops, and even have this bargaining, buying power. Got the major retailers and trade centers. They can go there and say, if we buy so much, how much you can give us? So apparently, according to I don't know if it's a myth or it's true, our own spaza shops are called questioning. If Dallas want to go buy, he'll sneak out before Mangalani sees him, take his bag in the 4 o'clock in the morning and go and buy those 4 packets of whatever and come back. And Mangalani is going to organize his own transport somewhere to go and buy 3 packets. All of them are buying at exorbitant fees. Meanwhile, if they would have done it together, pool their resources, they could have got that stuff for cheaper and for less, and they even gotten more for their buck. So that's my first concern. And then the second concern is, I'm not sure if I'm correct, but we've got this thing that these foreign people, foreign spaza owners, they got sponsorship from their governments. Like if you leave, you go and open so much spaza shop at this and this place, we will fund you. They are being funded. They are being funded. They are being sponsored. They are being supported by their, I don't know if it's embassies or their government. But now the same is not happening with South African government and their black businesses. How do we stimulate that? How do we get this? How do we get the government to improve our lives by sponsoring sponsor shops, especially from the past speaker, King T? How do you get the government to sponsor him without him having to bribe them or to give them a share, or without, if he was a girl, maybe giving them something? That's even what you say. How do you get jobs here in government? How do we get the government to help us, their own people, South Africans, out, without us having to lose a limb or without a rope, if I can say, use that vulgar word, sorry for that. And then my last concern, we have this culture in, I could say, I've experienced it a lot in South Africans. I've seen it in Stokvels, in Migodisano, in societies. This thing of people don't have loyalty. People don't have a sense of integrity and trust. You can start a Migodisano. Migodisano is like a Stokvel where you pop out 100 rand every month until the end of the year, then you start sharing. I've seen that thing many times where you don't see it to fruition. I'm not even a supporter of that, because I've been a victim of those of people not coming through for me when it was my turn. I think about 3 or 4 times. So how do we instill that how do you call it, that the inbuilt thing? I missed the word. How do you bring that thing instill it in us that you need to be trustworthy, you need to be loyal, you need to, like, people need to trust you. You can't just mess someone up because you can, because the next, because that's what's happening. If we agree on that, there's 100 of us on this on this talk, on this space, we're gonna pop out 100 rand each. I'm telling you, within 4 months, a few people would have pulled out, a few would have wanted their money out. Someone maybe will get paid the first half and then he'll run away with that money. That's what is happening. How do you instill a culture of that, of integrity and loyalty in our communities? Let me leave it there.
Thank you. Madibuitu, do you want to address the two before we move to the next round of speakers?
Okay, let me come in. I mean, the guy that spoke about battling to get investment into his business, I think firstly, maybe, I don't know, maybe he can just DM me. I need to understand the nature of the business, how it's structured, what business plan is in place. And then from there, I think maybe that's when we'll be able to know which entity to recommend for him to approach. Now, I think the second question is that the gentleman asked is that how do we create organizations that enable spaza owners in the townships to be able to do bulk buying from wholesalers? That one, Mangalani, I think as soon as Stella Davina Abrahams comes out of the coma, I think it's one thing that must be presented to her and say, how do we create a forum? Because the government has got the capacity. And once the government is on board, you will be able to access municipalities. Maybe at municipal level, we can say, may the mayors be able to know how many spaza owners are in the community. And from there, what interventions can be there to assist them so that they move as a unit rather than adopting individual approaches. But again, the challenge of South Africa to a certain extent is that I don't think our government is alive to the moment. And I'll give you an example. When I was at this blue chip company, we were in a certain area because we had a plant and we were battling with water. Actually, it was water. Our MD then invited the mayor to a meeting, and we had a meeting with the mayor and said, look, you're battling with water. I mean, by that time it was quality. The quality was compromised of water. And the company, we said, look, we can get an engineer on board who will help us to address this problem. And then we can maybe come to an arrangement where we get a rebate when we pay that engineer with his staff in order to resolve this problem that is affecting the whole community and including us as a company within the community. I remember the mayor that came there, it was on Friday afternoon, and she was quite in a hurry, and she told us simply that, look, she'll come back to us. She's rushing to Moria, to a church. We've never heard from her until the EXCO made a decision to close that plant and move it elsewhere. And a lot of people were retrenched because of a mayor that did not have a vision. And local government is a very critical sphere of government because that's where these businesses are being hosted. And I think the change needs to be driven at that local level. And that needs to be led by the Minister of Small Businesses. And I think that's where, Mangalani, you guys need to apply pressure on her. And some of us will be able to, I mean, the presentation that I gave you, I'm going to forward it to you so that you've got it in written form. and you can be able to incorporate it into your submissions. And we can assist as when you approach her in terms of what assistance can I offer. But certain things have got to be done by the government, because the government is responsible for the people. And if the government doesn't act, we've got to put pressure on the government. So I'll answer those two questions in that way.
Thanks a lot once more. Let's have Unapologetic, and then Dr. Cap, and then Vuyo, in that order, please. Let's go quickly, guys. Time is not on our side.
Hello guys, I hope you can hear me. There's a question or something I wanted to bring to light, is that what happens after these people have been pushed out of this industry? Because I don't know if you have noticed, but recently there's been videos of Somalians and Ethiopians, and it seems like these people are being trafficked into South Africa. They don't have a choice, is what I see when I watch these videos. Many of them, it seems like they are being forced to come here and operate on this spaza shop, because even if you go into a spaza shop and you buy an ice or amazimba, they'll say, buy for me too. It seems like they don't even have money themselves. So what happens after they've been pushed out, after South Africans take over this industry? Thank you.
I don't know if I can.
I think that was a very bad line, actually. But unapologetic. Your line was very, very bad, actually.
I think I was able to hear her, and maybe I can chip in. My answer to her, she says a lot of these guys, it seems like there's human trafficking where they're being brought into the country against their own will, and they are being placed at spazas, and a lot of times they are being exploited, underpaid. You buy a bread and say, do you mind to buy me as well? Now, again, when we say this matter must be addressed, I mean, I assume you guys are not violent and you're not advocating for violence. I mean, that is where the government must come into the picture and say, you have been trafficked into South Africa, you are placed in this spaza, then that is why we've got a way to take care of refugees. I mean, they need to liaise with the country of origin and say, look, we've got 30 or 100 of your people here. They are here against their own will. They've got no way out. And that, it must be government to government matter, where they're able to be restored back to their country and back to their families. Now, when we say there is this illusion that once there is a shift, South Africans are now owning spazas. I don't know whether is it lack of confidence in our own people, that if, for example, Mamelodi does not have spazas anymore, South Africans won't move in and immediately start trading, especially when they are being supported. I think they will make it. Most of them, they've got this experience. Some of them, we worked with them. They ran spazas for a number of years. And some of them left, not because they wanted to leave. They couldn't compete. And again, you see idiotic statements where someone will say, we need to learn from foreign nationals. My question would be, how do I learn to go and produce a counterfeit that is against the law? Are you encouraging us to learn how to break our own law in competing with people that are breaking the law? I think it's just being idiotic, and it's just frustrating, and it demonstrates how people are failing to apply themselves in relation to this issue. Look, give me 100 spaza shops. I think in a week or two, I can get South Africans that can run those spaza shops, and they can be assisted and be upskilled to run them. So it's not a big issue. We see our mamas are selling by the side of the road the mangoes, the bananas. I mean, they've got business skills. They can run these things. Is that the playing field is not level. So I think let's not be myopic in addressing this, and let's not be pessimistic about our people. Let's have confidence in our people, and let's help them. The gap will be closed. And I mean, Mangalani, another issue for me, maybe before I leave the stage, you go into a rural area. The other time I drove past a place called Nebo, it was rural. Now you've got Spa, those that may be familiar of the place, you've got Spa there, Muratiwa. And I was looking at this spa, and there's another one in Appel. These spas are right in the rural areas. And goodness, they are printing cash. So my question would be, where was the government? Because the government should have simply said to Spa, we see you want to get into the townships. We see that you now have USave that you are rolling out into the township and as well as into the villages. But we've got a requirement that if you were to open a USave in a village, can't you find people in that village that they can become part of that ownership, and in the process make sure that there is transfer of skills, and within maybe 5 years they stand on their own? But there seems not to be a willingness to be able to address these issues. But again, that's where you need to go and wake up our government so that they are alive to the moment. But let's not be pessimistic about our people. Our people fought the apartheid, they won against the apartheid, they are resilient and resolute. So let's not cast aspersion on them. They can run these businesses in the event where the need arises that they run them. Back to you.
No, I think you misunderstood me. What I was saying was these people are being trafficked into South Africa. Now, when they are pushed out, South African businesses are put in danger because even now, South African-owned spaza shop owners are being attacked by them so that they can take over these industries. So what happens when they are pushed out and South Africans have taken over? I'm not questioning that South Africans lack the skills or don't have the skills to take over. I'm just asking what happens to these people, whether trafficked or not, after South Africa has taken over. Because we are talking about how do we claim them, but what happens after? It's important that we talk about it as well. What happens to these Somalians and Ethiopians and Chinese? Thank you.
Gianni, let's simplify it if you allow me to. We cannot negotiate with terrorists. So by the mere fact that you are saying these people are trafficked, it means we are dealing with criminals. So now you want us South Africans, poor South Africans, to now accommodate these terrorists for fear. And then we have a serious problem, because that's where the government comes in. What happens to these criminals or these terrorists, it's nothing of our business. All we want them to do is deport these terrorists or criminals, as you correctly claim. These are human traffickers. So we can't say, let South African government be responsible for human traffickers. That will not fly. All South Africa government has to do is to make sure that they don't allow these terrorists or criminals to open their spaza shops in our country. That's all we are asking. Don't worry about what happened. By the way, I will say to you, what was happening before they came? They will go back to Somalia and continue killing each other. It's fine. That's how they want to run their lives. But we don't want them to do it here in this country. By the way, I wanted to say to on the point that he made about the government role in this industry. I just got a DM from someone who has been trying to speak. For some reason, their network is not behaving. They are saying in Mid-Val, DA is already doing the same thing. They've gotten rid of these Somali spazas by just using the normal regulations that are available. So for the life of me, now I can understand why all municipal cannot implement the same. Because all we want is make sure that bylaws are followed. If you start with the fact that they can't sleep in the shop, the starting point is once you start doing that, They don't want to sleep anywhere outside that, because you will quickly find out that they are actually running their shenanigans. They're not actually in the business of running tuck shops and all those things. So it will be easy to flush them out. So let's push pressure on our government to make sure that these people are flushed out of our communities. And by the way, as to what will happen to them, yeah, that's least of my problems. South Africa was here before they came, and South Africa will be here even after they've left. Let's hear Dr. Kapoor and then have Founder in that order.
Thank you so much, Mangalani, and good evening to everyone. I hope you can hear me.
Loud and clear.
Thank you so much. I think, man, thank you so much to all the speakers for the input. And I think to my sister who asked the question now, I think, yes, the question was answered, but I think it was just two stage, right? The first stage is that government needs to take care of it, because we need to remember that we as the citizens, right, we have something that we call social contract, where the government is supposed to kind of like oversee how the people live. So they need to take responsibility. If there's something that we are not happy about, or if there are concerns that we do have, and we raise them to those concerns to them, it's not necessarily an issue for us if those people were trafficked here. They need to manage the social contract. They need to make sure that us, the citizens first, once we are safe and we are able to live, we are able to have the life that we wish to have. But in saying that, I just wanted to say that it seems like there is some kind of like agreement. But if I were to put a little bit context on it, and I think this should be the way forward. The way forward should be to agree that we need a reset button. We cannot isolate this issue of spaza shops as if like it's something that is happening in isolation. It is not. It comes back to understanding how these things are intertwined, or how they connect from spaza shops. Even if you go to the mechanics, think about it this way, right? There is a huge business in mechanics in this country, like the fixing of cars. We have a lot of accidents, but look at who fixes these cars in South Africa. It's some people who come from these countries where they don't have the cars that we use in this country. There are some countries here in Africa where you go to Joburg, just to make an example. You go here in Joburg, you are involved in an accident, you tow your car to Joburg here for mechanics, for it to be fixed. You get there, it is being fixed by someone who comes from another African country. But if we look at the country where they come from, they don't use the same type of cars. They use like cars from maybe Asia or whatever. It just doesn't make sense to me. It just means that there is somewhere where there is either dislocation or a disconnect between what we are trying to achieve as the country, how we're trying to live as the citizens of the country, and our government. So I think everything just points back to how do we reset? Where did it go wrong? I think it's the issue of TAFADs, or when we started. I'm sorry if I am taking too long. The issue of TAFADs, when we started, we have a big issue in this country where in 1994 we moved from colonialism, we moved to apartheid. But the moment in 1994 there was this frenzy about democracy and everything, we're just supposed to, to learn how to live in democracy. There was never our us time where we decide some of these things, where how do we want to live, how do we make our education to enable us to be able to work our hands. We have had like miserable presidents or administrations before, that some of them have taught us that we need to go and have degrees that teach us how to be managers of some things that we cannot work, managers so that we work for some people. But how do we go back and say, guys, wait, let's take a step back? How do we reset our country? How do we allow our communities to be able to work their hands, so that we are not going to be told we can't run spaza shops? We can run spaza shops, but we need to understand that if one runs a spaza shop, let us say Mangalani opens a spaza shop, there should be someone who supplies cabbages. And then once there's someone who knows that I need to supply cabbages, the other person say, hey, I need to supply carrots. Hey, I need to supply beans. And then that's how even the issue of land comes in. Because if I own land and I'm able to plant cabbages, then I'll be able to supply the closest tuck shop. But now there is a very, very big misalignment between the government and the people. And there is, I must say this, I'm sorry if I'm taking too long. I must say this, guys. There is a security threat that is involved with this whole thing. How did you end up having a spaza shop that create their own grandpa? What do you know? Do you know what is being put in these grandpas that are not the same as the grandpa that you will get if you go to Pick and Pay or whatever, where the SAPS that checks this product? There's a lot of things that are happening, but all I'm saying is that
No, thank
what
you, Dr. Kopa. You can't be taking forever. I'm
okay,
sorry.
I'm okay,
No, no, no. You keep
I'm
on
standing
saying
down.
I'm sorry. Please
I'm
wrap
standing
up
down.
because we can't be
I
here forever.
Okay.
Sure,
Guys,
Senguzi. Guys,
thanks, Doc.
I'm just saying that let's go back to the reset and find a way how we want to live. Thank you.
Thank you.
Can the
Guys,
next speakers
I'm going to
please
ask.
keep to time?
No, Kwena. I'm going to ask Madiwitu to just write the questions. We won't be going back and forth. Just write down all the questions, and you will answer all of them right at the end. And then at the end, we will have Victoria, and then Kwena will close for us. For now, I'm just going to quickly run through the speakers to ask their questions or to make 2 minutes presentation if they want to, a 1 minute presentation, and move on. We are close to 10 o'clock, and we prefer to close our space at 10 because we know we can run until 12. The issues around this, it's huge, and we are not going to fix them overnight. So Vuyo and then Founder and then Scatter in that order, please, quickly. Vuyo, I'm only accepting you because your connection keep going on and off, on and off. So it's Vuyo, Founder, and then Scatter in that order, quickly.
Good evening. I think
Evening, Vuyo.
Africa has, I think my question has been answered, So, okay, I'll give time to other people. I think my question has been answered. Mine was on the criminality. Like, us as South Africans, are we at the mercy of non-nationalists or these foreigners? Are we at their mercy? If they say that these people are trafficked and the security issues, are we at the mercy of them? Are we not going to open our businesses? Are we not going to run our businesses because we are at their mercy? So they're going to dictate to us, how we run our businesses. If I want to open a business that is able to compete with them, am I at their mercy? Must I go and ask them for business opportunities? Must I ask them where the space that that I'm going to operate in? So my question was, are we at the mercy of them? Are we gonna tuck in our tail? Are we gonna sit down? Are we gonna suck our thumbs? Or we're gonna be like, no, man, this is our country. We love our country. We want to open our businesses. We want to open legitimate businesses. We want to do our family's great. But I think my question was answered. Thank you so much.
Thanks a lot, Vuyo. Founder, go ahead.
Hi guys. My name is Fizzy. I'm an entrepreneur owning we build electric vehicles, and I run a township delivery business in Soweto and other townships. My first part of the question is, not really a question. Do we not really think that the issue of township-based businesses actually thriving is because of the psychology of abantu abamnyama elokishini? And I say this because having experienced doing business in the township, abantu abaningi, it's always a thing of asibone ukuthi uzophelelaphi. I mean, we look at, for example, Imaponya Mall when it was opened.
Founder. I hate to do this, but I'll have to do this. We are not here to blame South Africans. This country existed pre 1994 with all those problems that you've listed. So let's not dilly-dallying around the issue and try blame South Africans for following the laws. So
No,
here
look, my brother. Look, if the issue of getting to a point is there, then I'll just step out of the chat, because then, I mean, there's no diplomacy in this entire thing. You just want to hear your own voice the entire time.
Okay.
It's not about that. We are running on time, Fonda. You came in late. Please come early next time so you can be given space to talk. Do not say that, because we can't be running a space for over 3 hours. We don't do that.
Guys, I'm just going to accept Noktula. Go ahead, Noktula.
I missed because I was struggling with network issues. But the point that I wanted to make earlier on when I was on this space was that firstly, I wanted to thank African Renaissance for his wonderful presentation. And I just wanted to add that it is possible to protect our economy, especially in the townships, because I've seen it where I live. There were rules, I don't know where they came from, but it was not from the community. When they built this, it's a new township, and they said that we want to keep it clean and we want to keep the structures as healthy as possible. So they said we are not going to allow these foreign-owned shops, because you know how they build, they just build the way that we want. So that was the main reason. So what happened was that no foreign shop was built, because as soon as something comes up, there's a new development, they're here. So they were stopped. But when South Africans came and wanted to start spaza shops, because obviously we need them, they were allowed. And because of that, we have 100% owned spaza shops. And there were some local community members wanted to say no to them, because they said, but these structures, they are temporary, they are containers, are going to make our community to look somehow. But many people said we are struggling to get South Africans in this township, in this spaza shop economy. So let's just allow them. So because of that, like I said, we have 100% owned spaza shops here. But the problem now is that just when you jump the street, it's another municipality, it's Mfuleni. So there are still many foreign-owned shops. And like African Renaissance said, the competition is still tough, because people will travel for 20 minutes walking just to get things that our South African spaza shop owners do not supply, because it's quite expensive for them to supply. They were even telling kids that we're not even making profit. They had to explain to us why they had to keep on raising prices, and it was reasonable, because I would buy a roll-on from them. It's chilled as I know it, but when you buy the one here at this store, which is 1 rand cheaper, it's not even the right product, it's fake. So our people did understand, and we kept those shops open. We said it's fine, just raise the prices. So if we can all work together, indeed our economy will get back to us. There was more I wanted to say, but for the sake of time, I'll just end there.
Thank you. A proof that it can be done, and we are going to do it. Zakes, and then after that is Namane. We are not accepting new speakers, guys. I'm just finalizing the ones who are on the podium, and then we will have Kwena thanking African Renaissance, and then we can close our space. Go ahead, Zakes.
Thanks for the opportunity. Good evening, everyone. Guys, I think mine will be brief and short, in a sense that I liked one of the speakers who said we have to reset. In terms of resetting, I always say that the government, from councillors, community leaders, up, have failed our people. Before these Somalians or these foreigners crowd our skills, most of us here, I believe we grow up ngemali yabo grandmother, abo gogo, mama, that were selling fat cookies, maize meal at the gate of a company, at the gate of a school. Have ever been those councillors said, Ma, we see you. You are struggling, or you are trying to do 1, 2, 3. Can we maybe by default create you a home here in community where we'll give you this capital and see how do you grow? They never look at that. And Somalians saw that, no, man, if I can come here and get this house at this corner and expand, that's how they grow. Our government have failed our people, guys. I know at times it's difficult for one to throw a business plan and so forth, but the virtue from the start, I'm giving the simplest ABC reason that most of us grow up through. Uphushela umama kwibhara umyisa esikolweni ahamba ayothengisa. None of our councillors, none of our commentators ever seen because lo mama ngazonengqondo une potential. Can we help him? Because what kills us to establish a business, it's funding. We don't have the money. So that's why we are surviving with the bucket, we are with the wheelbarrow, with the nanyamagunya, because we don't have that money. So Somalians, once they see the orange, they call back home, they fund them the money. Then they've got the stock, they've got the money to rent, and then they start the business. That's how it is. It's not far. That's why it is. Thank you.
Namane, go for it.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mangalani. Good evening, everyone. Look, mine is going to be little because African Renaissance have said a mouthful. They covered a lot of things that I wanted to say. The issue here is that there's a pattern that is growing now in our rural communities, whereby these guys are charging our people 5 rand for every 50 rand that you swipe, meaning that when you swipe 100 rand is 10 rand. That means now you are being double charged, because now you are paying your bank charges for swiping. You are also paying his bank charges. I don't know, are they doing that simply because of they are not regulated? And how legal is this? Can we be assisted on this? Because most of our parents are far away, or our people in rural areas are far away from ATMs and whatever. Now they take the opportunity to swipe. Sometimes they even go and draw money from them. But now those people, when you draw money, the bank is charging you. You also have to pay them their bank charges. How legal is this, and how can we stop this? Competition Commission or financial regulatory institutions, how can they intervene in this matter? Thank you very much, Mr. Mangalani.
Scatter, you are our last speaker before we give the mic to African Renaissance and Kwena. I see Scatter is struggling. So in that sense, I'm giving the mic to African Renaissance to answer all the questions. After that, we will have Kwena to give closing remarks and thank everyone who attended, and more especially African Renaissance, because a lot of people are saying, this is brilliant, guys. We really appreciate that you are getting someone with practical experience, and we have learned a lot. I see we have got Daddy. Daddy, have you already spoken? It looks like you have.
Yes, Chief. I have already
Oh, thank
spoken.
you. Yeah, I was a bit worried that you are the only speaker on the floor now. And okay, if you have, then it's fine. African Renaissance, the mic is yours.
Thanks, Mangalani, and thanks for everyone that made remarks. It's quite amazing that they were not questions. I think it was more affirmations that look, we are on the right trajectory. But I just want to revisit the point of resetting. I think this guy aptly captured it, because if your computer gives you a problem and maybe it's frozen, the best way that you need to get it up and running, you need to reboot it. Currently, in the small business space, is not working for us. Absolutely. Spazas, general dealers, I'm talking about what I've presented on this evening. So we've got to reset. We've got to reset the button. We've got to reboot the system. And it's very easy, Mangalani, in rebooting the system. And Gwen, what you do, if you say, I know in Trinidad, they made, I think it was last year, they made an announcement that, look, from such and such day, we will not receive a certain banknote. We need everyone that has got it to return it, and because we've got a cut-off date. and people had to comply, and those that did not comply, there was consequence management. So we must not be afraid to get to the government to be decisive. Let me say, if they were to say from 1st April 2021, for you to own a spaza, for you to own a general dealer, local super red, you need to have a permit in place. And the permit has got to be accompanied by these documents. We're giving you a grace period to get that in place. I'm telling you, and while you roll it out, you become vigilant to make sure that there is no corruption. I am telling you, you are going to be able to win the battle. But the problem is that we are afraid. I think I got muted. Sorry. Did you lose me there, Mangalani?
Yeah, just for 5 seconds.
Oh, okay, great stuff. So I was saying we must not be afraid to be decisive. You put that thing in place. You grant people the grace period. I am telling you, people are gonna make sure that they get their ducks in a row. And whoever has got their ducks not in a row, they exit the market, and those that comply, they participate in the market. As long as there is a demand, there will be a supply. That's the nature of economics. Don't be afraid when somebody tells you that what happens if we wake up and Mamelodi does not have spazas. There will be a demand, suppliers will come, and will be South Africans. For me, where I come from, we've got scarce skills that South Africa needs. Now, running a tax shop, guys, is not a scarce skill. Running a general dealer in the township is not a scarce skill. And it is shocking. Somebody spoke about the national security threat. You cannot, there is no rural area in South Africa. I'm not talking about even urban townships. I'm talking about the most rural of rural villages in South Africa, where you get there and you don't find foreign nationals owning shops. I mean, if I were to go to Pakistan, I would not find that. If some years back, I was in India on a trade visit with this blue chip company. I have never seen, I saw businesses being owned by Indians. The only places where you would go and find foreign nationals is where there is scarce skills that is required. But why are we being made to be ashamed to say, as a country, we've got laws, and those laws have got to be adhered to. Why are they being adhered? It's not only to protect the business, it's even to minimize criminality. I mean, if you say foreigners commit crime, and someone say even South Africans do commit crime, a South African is traceable because there are fingerprints. But a guy whose fingerprints are not on the database is not traceable. He kills women, the next day he's gone, you cannot trace him. So we need to somewhat move away from this whataboutism disease. Every time we raise an issue, people say, what about this? No, we will deal with this. If there are school fees that must be paid in case of starting afresh, let's pay those school fees. It's a pain that we're willing to endure, but we need to reset the whole thing. Now, we're not going to be political, but there are some politicians that speak through their stomachs instead of their mouth. To them, they just say it's a free for all. You don't have to have any obligations. You can do whatever you want to do. And you look at them, they've never owned a spaza in their life. They don't know the pain of having a stock and it's not being sold because the guy next door is selling counterfeit at half of the price. So this time, it's about time that when we speak about issues, let's speak to the people that are close to the issue, that have got an ownership of the issue. You can't speak about women issues and understand them unless you are a woman. And in the same vein, you cannot talk about the pain of small businesses unless you own one. Let's get them. Let's get South African that are used to own this. Let them tell us what they went through, what are the dynamics, and let's come up with corrective plan. But let us not be jittery to reboot the system. And guys, I wish you all the best. We need active citizenry, and do not be discouraged in any way. And my message to my Zimbabwean friends, I've got many of them. If they are listening to me, it cannot be a case that every time South Africans would want to reflect on an issue. Tonight I made a presentation that had nothing to do with Zimbabweans, but Tafatswa comes from nowhere. He speaks of his own issues, looking at issues through his own lens. They need to learn to take a back seat and observe and allow local-based people to speak about issues that involve them. I cannot come into your house and you're busy dishing out food for your children, and all of a sudden I tell you about how you need not to eat a chicken and chicken is bad. I'm gonna throw you out of, you're gonna throw me out of your house. So there is decorum when then there is etiquette when you are in certain spaces. I've been to Zimbabwe many times. When they speak about Zimbabwean issues, I keep quiet. Because why? I'm a visitor. I cannot indulge in certain issues. If they speak about whether Mnangagwa or Mugabe, I cannot get involved. That's not my issue. But why do they want to weigh in on any issue? Zimbabweans don't own spazas in South Africa. But we speak about spazas, Tafatswa chips in and say, what about the land? The land will attend it. It's our matter. It's our own domestic issue. We'll address it in our own way, but not in the Zimbabwean way, because we have seen how consequences can be dire when you do that. So let's not be blackmailed. No one must put us on a guilt trip. We've got generational thinking. We've got to do it for posterity. There are generations that are coming after us, and I think we've got a moral obligation to make sure that things are falling into place and we are not being blamed and asked, what did you do when things were falling apart? It's about time that men and women who are patriotic and who love South Africa, they will protect the interest of this country, and we need not to be apologetic. We have got Ubuntu, but Ubuntu that we have has got to be expressed within the confinement of the laws of the land. Back to you, Mangalani. Thank you, guys, for listening to me. I don't say the presentation was the best, but I had to share my insights from my perspective, and certain things may be subject for correction. But I think as we move, we will improve in terms of making sure that we provide the thought leadership in order to make our country a better country, and more especially a safe country for us, women and children. As it is now, South Africa is a jungle. When you leave your house, you are never sure whether you will return intact. It cannot be like this. We've got to put a stop on this. And if we've got to get them to wake up, we've got to do that. And if we've got to advocate for them to move out of power, we've got to do that. And no intelligence should stop you from doing that. It's patriotism. And if a cause is a worthy cause, it's a cause that you should be prepared to die for should a need arise. Back to you, Mangalani and Kwena. There's been a pleasure speaking to you this evening.
Thank you. Kwena?
No, I thank you, Bitumelo, for coming through and sharing your experiences. I think I'm still getting DMs of somebody still asking about us building integrity amongst our community. And I thought with what Noktula said earlier on, of how the community came together, it would have given somebody an idea what needs to be done. I think for us to even build as South Africans, wherever you are in the community that you are, you need to influence the community that you are in, and have a group of people that you share ideas with, and you do these things together. That is why we've been encouraging everyone to do to do it how even Seshego community is doing it. I've seen them, I've got to see them, and I've sat down with them. I'm happy with their program because of they are also dealing with the spazas in Seshego, and they've even called in the MEC of Gokta and the mayor to actually even account to them to say that they want them to enforce bylaws in Seshego. So I think as patriots, we need to be seen as active members in the communities that we are in, and get the group of people and expand this thing from the community base that we are in order for us to influence it. And even going forward, to know that if you are working with these people, you are working with these people. You guys should trust each other. You should be willing to actually even take care of each other and be loyal to each other. So those kind of things are not something that Gwena can talk about on Twitter, because Gwena is not from your village. Gwena is from Ramulekwa, and I'm happy even with my community. I think even when I was still in Gauteng, they were being active about this thing. They still wanted to do it, but the way they wanted to go around it, it was not particularly with what we are saying, because South Africans are very angry. Some of them, they want to take the law into their own hands, and with them taking the law into their own hands, guys, will end up actually, giving the enemy what they want and giving them the narrative that they've been trying to actually even narrate, to say that we are being xenophobic, we are being violent, and all other issues. So thank you everyone for coming through, and hopefully, I guess, Mangalani, I think this is our last second space. I think the next one is going to be the last one, so we go for December, right?
Yes, but I remember what has happened. We were trying to get hold of, initially we had secured someone in the security cluster, but for fear of being victimized, they've been saying, well, is there a tool that can distort their voice? But as it is, I don't have any tool that they can use to distort their voice. Not only that, we also had an issue that if they distort their voice, it becomes very difficult to discern the message. So we'll have a discussion after this, Gwena, sometimes, and then see what we can do. If we can't fill the space with someone, even if that person is not in the security cluster, but we have he was fairly, or this person is fairly senior, wanted to give us blow by blow, exactly what, similar to what African Renaissance did tonight, which we really appreciate. He has given us 2.5 hours of nothing but knowledge and wisdom. And it's something that we will use when we approach the Minister of Small Businesses, because we really want these industries to be taken by South Africans again. When ANC came from Morogoro, these industries were being run by black South Africans, and there's no reason why it cannot go back to black South Africans. Precisely why everyone, and most people don't realize, when Mandela was driving through Cape Town in that Cressida, that Cressida is from the business person, and that business person is Maponya. I can tell you now, under the ANC, we will not have had Maponya. We will not have had Muloi. There are so many business people. Now we have the Somali. We don't even know their names, or the Ethiopians. And what the ANC don't realize is they're actually reducing their own power by giving power to the Somalians. We have just finished building a dam in Ethiopia now, and we can't even lay claim to that dam, but it's our money from tax shop that was used to build that dam. It's painful, especially for us who are patriots. So when, on that note, we will see what we will have a discussion after. But for others, I'm getting a lot of guys who are saying they want to give the presentation. Guys, we don't care. We are not going to say you belong to this or that. We just want to give South Africans platform to voice their issues, to share their experiences with others. We want a country filled of patriots. We don't want a country, because the country looks like, it looks like nobody feels that they own this country, but yet it's our country. When we sing our national anthem, you don't see pride in South Africans, and that's a big issue. If you go to Europe, they'll make you feel that, you know what, you are. If you go to Italy, when you are walking around the streets in Rome, they will make you feel that this is Rome. But when people come in this country, it's as if this country has no owner. Or maybe it's that South Africa belongs to everyone who lives in it. Anyway, let me not get into that. And when we will have discussion on the next speaker, or whether we will have the next space or not.
Yeah, I think no, would rather have the last space, even if maybe we don't get anyone. I think it is just for Patriots to reflect on the year, and then to actually even give updates about what will happen, and then when we'll resume the space in January, and the other program that we planned for January. But obviously, because of issues that are aligned to it, we cannot say it out loud, and and share details in full. But I think we'll meet next week on Thursday. That should be the last space for festive season. And yeah, and I think we can't. Okay, we failed to get the minister today, but obviously because of you wrote that letter, I think we are happy because of that. But going forward, I think we'll even share in January what needs to be done, and even look at the issues of going to schools that deny South African kids space because of we need to accommodate foreign kids and all those things. So those are the January programs that I think we got to discuss, but they are still somewhere. We are not yet clear on which days and which time and whatever. So those are the things that I think it should be about the last space. So, but thank you all for coming through, and thank you, Vitumelo. Enjoy your evening, everyone. We'll see each other until next week, Thursday.
Oh, thank you, Kwena. And for those who demand recording, our resident professor, Humutso, Mozi84, will make it available sometimes. He will let us know when. Just keep checking our message boards and all. We do post those things. It will be available on Spotify and YouTube. So thanks to Mozi84, Humutso, our technical professor, will make this available. Other than that, guys, it has been a very good evening. 2 hours well spent with Patriots, and have a good evening till we see you again next week. Bye.
Bye-bye.